Hey guys, Sargenis from Pure Storage here. I just wanted to show you today how we do cloning of SQL Server databases that sit on vSphere, but using the VVols storage infrastructure. So this is kind of how it goes. If we go into our vSphere web client here, we can look at our vCenter and we look at VM08, which we're going to consider our source VM. Okay, you can see the specs of it, etc., etc. If you click here on other hard disks, you can see all the hard disks that are attached to this current VM, and one of them sits on our VVols data store. And so it's a 15 terabyte volume, right? And if we go into Windows here, you can see that volume right there. We call it SQL data. And if we go into, it's actually mounted, I can show you how much data there is within it. So, there's a whole bunch of data there. There's about, let's see, there's 2.23 terabytes of actual files in there. So we're going to clone this, right? And we're going to attach it to another VM. But, I cheated. I've already done that. And I'm going to show you how to refresh that clone. So here's a clone, VM09. If you look at this SQL data volume, it's the exact same 15 terabyte volume. I once cloned it before. If I go there, if I look at my X drive, I go into my SQL data mount point, you can see all my files are all the same 2.23 terabytes worth. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh, considering VM08 as my source and VM09 as my target. I'm going to perform some basic cloning of that SQL Server database that sits on that one volume. So if I go into SQL Server Management Studio here, you can see on VM08, I have this FT-demo database already attached there, and it's also attached to VM09, right? So you can see it's on both places there. If I show you the cloning script, it's actually super simple. It loads some basic PowerShell modules here, defines the target VM that you're connecting to. Now, please don't use this as your production refresh script, because I'm doing some very silly things like having my password here in the clear. It's just a demo. I just want to show you how it works roughly, and then you can, tweak this as you see fit, but we do have a sample script on GitHub for you to leverage. Anyway, let's go over the target steps that we have to do in order to, all the series of steps that we have to follow in order to clone the database. Number one is we have to offline the target database. We're not going to even touch the source database. As a matter of fact, we have ongoing workload running against that source database. And if you can see here, I have a SQL CMD running that's actually inserting rows into that FT-demo database using some script that I have here. But I can actually kick off a lot more workload than just that, right? I can kick off this tons of times. And I have like a truckload of SQL CMD windows inserting into that database, all kicking off insert statements against that database. So if I look at, how many rows I have on my guinea pig table right now on VM01, I have something like, 4.2 million rows or so. And that number is ever increasing, right? So you can see 4.3, 4.33, blah, blah, blah. This is ever increasing. I never actually stop my workload on my source instance as I do the cloning. And it's actually super important because I'm not going to introduce any pauses on IO or anything like that. So on my target instance, though, I do have to offline the database because I'm about to refresh it. On my target instance as well, I have to offline the volume within Windows because, we don't want any open file handles or anything like that on the volume that we're about to refresh. We connect to the array and authenticate. And remember, I told you there's a better way of doing this. I'm just showing you this quickly for the purpose of the demo. Okay, and here's how I do the volume override. You can see this vvol on VM08, vvol on VM09. And just go. It's one fell swoop. This stuff takes a millisecond on the array side. It takes nothing. And then on the once we're done with that clone, then we only have to online the volume and online the database, and we're really done. That's it, right? So I already ran it before. It took something like 8 seconds, but if I run it again, it'll take anywhere from 5 seconds to 20 seconds. That's the most that I've seen SQL Server taking for this particular version of SQL Server 2019. And even with accelerated database recovery, it takes anywhere from 8 to 15, 20 seconds sometimes. But there you go. It finished in 13 seconds. So if I go to VM08, let's go to Management Studio here. VM08, continuing to insert, we're sitting at 5.89 million rows. And if I go to VM09, I look and I have 5.57 million rows because that's how many rows I had at the time of the clone. And, like I said before, I never actually stopped my workload on my source instance. I can run this all day. I can actually kick this off on a while loop if I want to, if I just want to have the database refreshed constantly from production. And there is no impact to the actual source database while these operations take place, because this is all handled on the back end, on the storage array side. Windows doesn't know anything. SQL Server doesn't know anything about this process taking place. And so if I go again, I just refreshed it again. It took again about 13 seconds. If I go look, now I have 6.34 million rows. And again, the number is static because I have no workload running against my secondary or my copy database. It's not a secondary, it's just a copy, right? And then on my source, I continue to see rows being inserted because my workload, all those SQL CMD windows, have never stopped running, right? They never saw a pause on I/O or anything like that. So what's cool is that now that I have this copy of the database on VM09, I can do anything I want with it, right? I can run queries against it. I can dbcc check the database, and because it is an exact copy of the production database as it was at the time of the copy, there are no differences in the underlying blocks of storage whatsoever. And that's one of the beautiful things about Pure Storage's FlashArray data services, right? The capability of taking clones and snapshots that mirror the exact same state of a volume as it was at the moment of the operation. And so this can be used for a ton of different purposes, but I just wanted to highlight this today and how easy it is to make clones of multi-terabyte databases in just a matter of seconds. Thank you for listening.